Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today we are going to take a little trip back to our Artful subscription box. That was the December box which had all the lovely inks in it. I'm kind of skating on thin ice today because I have an idea of something that I would like to do with these inks, but it's not a fully formed idea in my head. So teamed with the fact that I don't normally work in inks, this could be quite interesting, but I'm really excited and I've been wanting to do something, do an actual piece with these supplies since I got my box, and with Cave missing one thing and another, I've really not had time yet. So I'm quite excited to just have a play about with these. No expectations today, but let's try and create a piece of art with our acrylic inks. So we're going to get to top down view and we can get going. Alright, so a quick rundown of everything that I have here out of the Artful kit. I have got all of the acrylic inks. I've got the India ink as well as the Pelican fountain pen ink. I have a couple of the water brushes. I'm probably not going to use these, I'll be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of them. I've got the two paint brushes, which I was a very big fan of. And I've also got the little box of goodies, so in there is the Chinograph pencil, the fine liner, etc, etc, the wax crayon. Again, we'll probably not be using all of that. In addition to that, I have got a pipette, I have got a little ceramic mixing palette here, and I've got a couple of cups of water just spread about here. So a little thought had popped into my head about what to do today, and I did do a video where I explored doing a little bit of bird anatomy because it's something that I don't do a lot of, and I kind of wanted to keep going with that because it's something I think I need to get better at. So I'm using the Artful paper here, and we established that this was really good paper for these inks, so that's a good thing. The supplies have been curated properly. If you haven't seen the original unboxing and me testing out all of these supplies, I'll leave the link to that video in the end card so you can watch it after, and also leave it down in the description if you want to go and watch it first. So I'm thinking today I'm going to tackle a Mr. Rooster. There are lots of different types of roosters. Obviously there are different varieties, but a lot of them have really colourful plumage, and I thought we could really take advantage of all these really pretty ink colours. So that's what I'm going to kind of be aiming for today. So we're going to do a quick sketch. Move these out, they're casting a shadow on the paper. Oh, better. Yeah, so we're going to do a quick sketch, and it will just be a rough under sketch because we want the ink to do most of the work. This isn't really a drawing video per se. From what I learned about, there's a mark on this paper, right? Okay, here we go. It's starting already. One thing I'm always really guilty of is bad positioning on the paper. So when I am drawing out my bird, I want him to be fairly centred. Now we're going to have, I need to decide which tail's going to be facing, so I'm thinking I actually need to move this over a bit. So he's kind of like looking back the way, but we want him to be strutting, so we'll have a leg down here. And then he's going to have his little joint, because there's going to be a joint in there, and the joint's going to be up there somewhere, because that's going to be his abdomen. Okay. Then that just comes down into his body, which will be in behind his wing. He looks kind of fat. It's funny how I have this thing about fat birds. And this like almost joins up round the beak. I don't know if their wings tuck in a bit. Maybe that way a wee bit. Look, he's maybe got more of a swagger in his step. Okay, so the idea of this is just to have a bit of fun and maybe just keep this fairly loose. So I'm just using a kneaded eraser here to lighten up these lines. I'm not that bothered if the pencil lines show through, but there are areas obviously where I've had to work a bit harder feet, and I don't want them showing up just quite as much. This fountain pen ink is very cooperative and it's quite easy to work with, so for a kicker I just want to water some of this down, get that really watered down, and we'll see what that looks like. Now it is always handy to have some scrap paper just to test out if you're working with dilutions, just to see what that's actually going to look like. So let's do that first of all, and I'm just going to use this water brush minus the water. And just quite loosely round the shape of my rooster. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want to get a little bit of water down on the paper first, and then grab some of my ink and just splodge this about a little bit, let it go where it wants to go. I'll just drop a little bit of that in there, see what it wants to do. Smush it about a bit, why not? Okie dokie, so we're a little bit drier now, and I've just splatted out a couple of the acrylic inks here. Now I'm going to go very cautiously to begin with because I'm not entirely sure what I want here, so I'm just going to lay a little bit of water down. I'll start with these comb because that's a fairly straightforward part. She says hopefully. But we'll put that in there and then I can just dip away. Oh, like it spreads so. I love this. Like, this just makes me so freaking happy. It's so bright as well. We'll just let that do its thing. And then I've got this red part round the eye again, which I'll try and keep fairly crisp. Okay, so we've got this area in here. And then I just want to take a little bit of the yellow and let that do its thing also. I'm trying to keep this fairly loose. And then just with what's on my brush, like the residue, I'm going to put in here because I need to mix a colour for his legs and his beak, and I'll probably keep that the same. I'm not going for like an ultra realistic type painting here, but I do want the colours to be relatively accurate. So I want to try and mix up a teal colour while I'm waiting for that to dry. So I'm just going to, oh, I've got a stringy bit. I'm going to get some of this green out. And again, if I stick a little bit of that in one of these wells here, and that green's just absolutely, I love this colour of green, I really do. Teal is halfway, well, supposed to be exactly halfway between green and blue, but obviously this is definitely leaning towards blue already. So we'll just take it easy. Oh, look at that colour. That is beautiful. Okay, that is absolutely perfecto. And yeah, there's a few things I want to do here. I want to start sort of bulking out some tail feathers, but there are sections where I will want that to be considerably darker. I rarely use colour in such a form as this, but it's certainly quite interesting. Now with a much drier brush here, I just want to start pressing in some texture here, and again the shape of this brush is just absolutely adorable for this, it really is. Okay, let's see if, okay, this is fairly dry. I can still feel a little bit of dampness on the paper, but the nice thing about acrylic ink is it doesn't take forever to dry. So we don't have to sit about whistling and twiddling our thumbs all day, which is great. So I just want to go back with this red now and just do a little bit of work. This is dry enough to work on. And this is really just a case of building up a little bit of shadow, you know, a little bit of sort of 3D-ness, but also get a little bit of texture in there as well, because that's kind of half the fun. So this is going to bleed together a little bit, but I don't want the lines to be really, really harsh. And if you do think you've got too much on your brush, you can just wipe it off on a bit of kitchen roll like I've done there. Oh no! Okay, we've got an added extra there. That's just stuck my hand in that. Like, yeah, good. Okay, so now we have not a mistake but a happy little accident. And we will blend that in. I'm actually not concerned about that at all. On the basis that yeah, there's going to be loads more going down here before anything gets even remotely funky. So, yeah. Okay, right now, so what I want to do is get myself a little bit of an orange colour. So I'm going to take the yellow here and I'm going to squish it in here. And while we're waiting on that drying, I'm going to take a little bit of this India ink. And again, I'm actually taking most of it off my brush. I don't want this to be absolutely crazy. And I'm just going to start in here again with what I was doing before. Now what we want to do is have a sort of, like think about a light source. So when we're doing this, we want to start building up our darker areas, which I would like to be around the outside on this side. And maybe we can have, you know, just a little sheen down the middle here. That would be really nice because that also helps us show the curvature of his chest. So we do have to be careful here that everything's drying so that we don't end up with lots of, you know, like sort of muddy messes. But if they bleed in a little bit, that's actually not a bad thing. So this really is a case of I don't actually know where I'm going with this. I'm just enjoying using the actual, I was going to say oil, goodness me, I've got oil in the brain just now. I'm just enjoying the actual ink itself. You can see we're starting to layer these up now, so we've got a little bit of opacity. Oh, that was a wonky feather. Let's see if we can do something with that. Smooth that one out a bit. There we go. So you can start to see that overlap there, which is really, really nice. I'm enjoying that very much. And then again, just with what's left on my brush here, I can start. I'm trying to avoid the black because it's not had sufficient time to dry yet, but... And if I just mix this together, this should give me quite a dark brown colour, but again, we can water it down. So if I just go into here, you can see there that we're totally there with that, which is awesome. We'll have to wait and see how it dries right enough, but I'm not overly concerned. Really lightly. And then the same here. We just want a couple of little darker areas in there. Okay, so I've got this really watered down yellow again, and it still has a little hint of that brown in it, and I'm just going to use that to come up in here. And I'm just going to gently guide that around. Now I'm trying to get that as tight into the other ink as possible without flooding the areas I've already painted. But it's behaving reasonably well. Because this is acrylic ink, it's not going to move about the way watercolour would, but if you flood it, it is going to do something. So right, I'm just taking the excess off my brush now, and I'm just going to start flicking down into this area. And we'll see how that dries. We'll let it dry, let it do its thing, and we can take it from there. I can just still see a few areas where I could get in a little bit closer. So we're starting to build up some really nice colour now, and this is what this is all about for me, is getting those layers in, because that's what gives you a little bit of texture, makes things interesting. Okay, so we're getting into the big guns now. I'm going to pull out this purple colour. It's like a violet colour. Yes, they've called it violet. Ooh, that was maybe a bit much. Ooh, getting exciting. And I'm just going to go straight in there with this brush. I am in love with this paintbrush. And we want to... Oh, yeah. Maybe he's got a little extra one that comes up here. Again, with this violet being a little bit more intense, I'll try and keep this around the outside area here. Okay, so I've got this really pale yellow. This is the really diluted yellow. And I'm going to use this on his beak area. And the same for his legs as well. Again, we will work more with that, but it's just this idea of a base coat, which I seem to have a fixation with. Everything I do has a base coat. It's just like a base colour to work from, and then you can build up on it. And as long as you know roughly what that's going to look like, it's not really a part of your picture that can go wrong per se. Okay, things are drying quite nicely, which is great. So I'm just going to carry on Need to do a little bit of work on these wing feathers, and what I would like is for some of this dark purple here, so maybe join that up. Use some broader strokes here. Now this is going to muddy the colours a little bit, but that's actually okay because this is a very, very vibrant piece, so there's nothing wrong with having, you know, these more sort of muted mixed colours. And I'm going to take the last of this yellow. It is kind of dried in on the palette now. And again, I've still got a little bit of that other colour on the brush, but that's no bad thing at this point. We're back up in here. Because we'll try and keep the vibrant feathers for further down. Okay, so we've got this beak area and we've got the legs, and I want to do a little bit of work on these legs. So this was our mixed brown, which is quite dark, and again we can build this up in layers. But what I really want here is a sort of slightly more definite line down the back here. And then we can just pull that out, and that gives that nice sort of ridged appearance. So it's just like tiny little flicky lines here, which is very, very characteristic of birds' legs. So we'll give him that. And we'll maybe even just do a little bit down his toes. Good. So again, taking off most of what was on my brush there. And I just want to add in this bottom part of his bill. So it looks as if he's got two parts to his beak. And again, we may build that up. We'll see. We'll wait and see how it dries off. And now this part's dry enough. Again, not washing the brush, just taking off the excess. And I'm going to go into this orange. Just make sure that... Oh no! Oh goodness me. That's the first time I've dropped a paintbrush in ages. And I'm just going to take this orange. And what I want to start to do is just blend this in, so that it looks like it's part of the same bird. Because of course it is, obviously. Just really light flicky strokes here. So make this area like the definite shoulder part as opposed to the chest part. I see his other wings just disappeared entirely, so we'll give that a pass. Okay, so I want to go back into my purple here, but again what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a tiny bit of India ink to this. Now that is far too much. I could actually get away with half of that, because India ink just like, it takes over. It doesn't matter what you're doing, it just takes over. But that was kind of what it was designed for, so there we go. And now if I lift a little bit of this in here, so we're really just darkening it down a tad. Okay, so this is like black with a purple tint to it. There we go. Really start to fill in the white parts there. And then we can just start, and now that this is diluted right down, you know, this is like the remnants on the brush. Now grab my teal colour now, what's left of that. Might as well use it up, because we do need to start bringing in some darker shades here. Really give us a bit of contrast. And that just helps as well with a bit of depth in the tail here. Again, I'm going to take more or less all of that off the brush. So I'm down to almost like a greyish blue colour. And if I just come up in here, and I can dab a little bit of this, and it's almost like a shadow colour. I was kind of hoping this would be dry. And with his legs, they are a bit, as we would say, a good Scottish word for you, peely-wally. If something's peely-wally, it's very washed out, it's very pale. And that's, his legs have kind of disappeared down here. So I'm just going to make sure my brush is clean. It seems to have a little blue on it for some reason. And I'm just going back over what was there. Again, because this is acrylic, it's not going to disturb what's going on underneath as long as it's dry properly. So we're in fairly good standing. The only thing I have to say that I'm not enjoying about these inks is you do have to just wait and see what they're going to look like dry. I feel like I want to bring these right down, but right, here's the tricky bit. Well, when I say tricky, I mean the scary bit. I am going to take the India ink. Oh boy. Now, we do have to go sparingly with this, because I do not want to take away from all the beautiful work that we've done. Okay, better. Feels like that's just helped it look a little bit less cartoonish, shall we say. And I'm going to do the same down in here as well, just in these bottom parts. Okay, while I'm waiting for various areas to dry, I'm going to grab my fine liner. And there's a few details I want to start putting in. I'm going to have to wait for this to dry somewhat. So if I tilt this slightly, I should be able to get in to do his eye. It's funny, after sitting with a paintbrush for a couple of hours, holding a fine liner seems really strange. It's just come upon me. The notion has come upon me. I'm going to go back into this red, and it's quite saturated now. It has started to dry. And I think I just want to plonk in a few. What's left of some of these brighter colours, so the likes of my teal here, I'm just going to plonk a wee bit of water in that, mix it up, and go and get some splatters on the go. Why not? Now obviously the waterier the paint, the more splatters you're going to get, but also the less saturated it's going to be, so it can be about finding a balance, but I don't think there's anything wrong with playing about with that. Oh goodness me, I've flooded that red and I've probably taken that a bit too far. Look at him strutting about in all his glory. Okay, now I'm just going into the neat blue again, and this is going to be my final pass here. Okay, right, I'm quite happy with that now, I think. So we'll just let this dry, and then I'm just going to take my fine liner, and there's a few just bits and pieces I want to scribble in, and I think we're going to be pretty much done after that. Okay, so I'm just swithering this to whether or not to do a bit of fine lining here. It is quite a loose outline, and I might spoil that. And do you know what? I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I think I'm just going to sign this at the bottom. And I think I'll call it done at that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is our little adventure into acrylic ink. I have had bags of fun with this today. I had a wee look at this, and I think my proportions are slightly off. I think his body could have done with a little bit shorter and his legs a wee bit longer. But considering I don't really draw birds, I'm quite happy with this, and I've very much enjoyed playing about with these inks. I would love to hear of your adventures with the Artful acrylic inks, or any other acrylic ink for that matter. If you have done something like this and you want to share it with me, which I would love to see, you can stick it on Instagram, and you can use the hashtag #TheColourCave, and you can let me see what you have been up to. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. Everything's welcome as always down in the comments section. You'll love to read the comments, and all that remains is for me to thank you very much for watching today, and I shall see you back in the cave for another video really soon. So have a good day everyone. Bye for now.